Welcome to Healing Wisdom, a Thursday morning talk show featuring guests sharing their stories and knowledge. We discuss the healing aspects of the arts, metaphysics, social justice, and adventure through all types of terrain. So join me, Pandora Peoples, here on WOMR 92.1 FM in Provincetown and WFMR 91.3 FM in Orleans. We're streaming worldwide at WOMR.org. My guests today are co-directors of the educational nonprofit Mujeres Unidas Avanzando, Zoila Diaz and Johannah Malone. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
MUA has been helping Latina women and girls since 1979. Can you tell us about this mission of your education-based nonprofit?
Sure. The mission at Mujeres Unidas Avanzando is to provide the low-income Latinx community and other English language learners the tools and resources to empower themselves and to effect liberating changes in their lives, those of their families, and society at large. In recent years, our program has expanded. The day program is open to women and those who identify as women only due to the domestic violence program. And the evening program is open to women, men, and other genders. Our population is about 90% Latino, Latina, and another 1%, we have students that come from Afghanistan, Vietnam, Haiti, and Cape Verde.
Can you talk about the community that you serve and how you empower women as leaders?
The community that we serve, most of our students come from Boston. We are open to pretty much anyone in the Massachusetts area, especially in a post-COVID era that we've gone largely, we have virtual programming at night and hybrid programming during the day. We try to empower leaders through leadership trainings, both in-house and with our community partners at large. We also try to have staff and volunteers that reflect the population of those that we serve. So we prioritize women applying for positions, also persons of color applying for open staff positions and volunteer positions, just to make sure that, again, the volunteers and staff reflect the constituency that we serve. And we try to also, whenever possible, to consider people that might not have a formal degree or a formal background, and just really, we look for staff that has and volunteers that have language skills, that have educational skills, that also have similar life experiences to the immigrant population that we serve. A lot of our, staff members are mothers, they're immigrants, they've learned English as a second language, they've had to navigate Boston, both as parents and as workers, and creating a positive home environment and school environment for their children, and working as equal partners in their children's education with their children's teachers and support staff.
I also want to add that we provide them with resources regarding a workshop presentation. We give them the opportunity to really involve them in different activities so they can feel and anything that they really want. We also have social service component, which help them in the area of when they have some problem with the daycare or problem when they're solved for domestic violence. But we provide all the resources for them in our program.
And we try to give them a voice and to give students a role within the program. So we've had students lead, for example, domestic violence workshops as student peer mentors and leaders. We have students that do tutoring, that lead projects, that lead events, that mentor other students. So we really try to involve the student body as well in our service delivery.
Some of your staff have graduated through the program, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So that's really important in terms of inspiring and making it feel accessible, building trust and building a sense of safety and community, right?
Correct. We the first thing that we usually do for them or with them is to ask them or make them feel comfortable so they can come and and they can trust us with their children and also with themselves, because that's the Latina woman or other culture. If they don't feel safe, they don't have those comfortable things in their mind, they won't feel, good in themselves. So that's one thing that we always wanted, for them to be comfortable where they are.
Can you talk about how community needs have changed over the years and how your goals have changed? You mentioned the pandemic and how that's brought classes online. That sounds like you're reaching new audiences or new communities.
Absolutely. I mean, we've noticed, not to go so far back, but, say going back 7 years or so, we've noticed shifts in stakeholder requirements. It used to be enough to just learn English or to obtain the high school equivalency. That is not enough to set students up for success as members of society, as workers, as parents. We need to help students connect to and achieve a critical next step, so they can come to our program to learn English and to attain their high school equivalency, or to get some job training skills. But the critical key steps are that they then transition to college, or that they get a job for the first time, or they get a raise or a promotion. So it's really that critical next step has emerged and informed the work that we do. And also really the need for wraparound services, especially leading up to and including the pandemic. It's very expensive to live in Boston. And a lot of the safety nets that were there for pre-COVID still aren't back in full force. There's many of our students that, some daycare still, even now, they closed and they didn't reopen, or some after-school programs that they can't get the staffing, so their children no longer have after-school care. So we just really try to connect them to resources throughout the city of Boston. And we also try to leverage resources to assist them. For example, we get donations of toiletries, we get donations of gift cards. We've hired an evening career coach in addition to a career coach during the day, that they can look for jobs, that they can see what workshops and trainings are in the community. We just really want to be a wraparound resource. And we've also noticed that, and Zoila can speak to this a little better than I can, but during COVID, especially when we were on lockdown, there were many families that had to be home together. Well, for a woman that has an abusive husband, being in close quarters, not having a place to escape from the home, literally, we definitely noticed an increase in domestic violence situations. And I'll let Zoila speak to that in a little more depth.
We try to really accommodate them in anything that they really need, because that's our problem. If they don't have the things that they need, they cannot really be in the program. So we try to, the first thing that we do, with the social service component, we go through a lot of questions, a lot of things that they think that we can help them. And like Johannah said, we did a lot in the situation of the COVID, because a lot of students, they like in domestic violence situation, and also other in shelters. That was very inconvenient for them. So we try to go to them instead of them to come to us.
I would think that as an immigrant, it would be very alienating and a shock culturally to come into an area where everybody is in their small family units, feeling kind of alienated and isolated from their neighbors oftentimes, because of the emphasis on the consumer culture. And, people will go out and buy their own, expensive thing that they don't really need. They might use once a year just because they're not going to ask their neighbor, or their neighbor isn't going to offer to share resources. Can you talk about that experience for these women? I mean, is that something you see at all?
See it when they come to our program, because they don't know the language. They come into learning English. And when they come here in the United States, they need to have that support in any organization or any place that they need, that they want to go, so they can feel that they will get the help that they need.
We do see some, and Zoila can speak to this a little better than I can, but there are some instances of multi-generational households where they do come to live here, and sometimes they bring family. We had, from an outside donor, a small adoptive program, and we helped 9 families, and some of them, the grandparents lived in the household, which is wonderful. We do notice a pattern where, parts of Dorchester and Roslindale, that there's more Hispanics living together in the apartment buildings. And that helps with our outreach, because they'll say, they'll notice in the triple decker, woman upstairs, she goes to English class. Where does she go? So in some ways that does help us to make connections. But I've also seen, and this is where Zoila can, add some detail, that can make them reluctant to go outside of the community that they know, to come to school, to come to work, to try new things, to go where the language isn't as familiar.
Yeah, they really, that's the thing with us. Even if they know about our program by the radio or by anybody that they inform them, they will try, because it's something that they know there will be in Spanish, and we'll guide them to the things that they really need. I mean, it's a lot of women, especially the young women, that now they are looking for to be more than they are. I mean, they're looking to go to college. They want to have a good job. They want to feel that they can really help their kids. Because if they increase their education, they will help their kids better.
You're listening to Healing Wisdom on WOMR 92.1 FM in Provincetown and WFMR 91.3 FM in Orleans. We're streaming around the world at WOMR.org. I'm Pandora Peoples. My guests today are Johannah, Malone, and Zoila Diaz. They are co-directors of Mujeres Unidas Avanzando, and they're speaking with us about their educational nonprofit.
Many of our students on evaluations have said that our school has become a second home. And they've, when we've had site visits with funders or just, again, on evaluations, they've commented that a bilingual environment, staff that reflects who they are, that encourages them to get out of their safety zone, as Zoila said, to try to come to a new school, to bring their children to a new school, to enroll in English classes, especially if some of them have only been to the 6th or 8th grade. To take that risk after being out of school for so many years, starting a family, to try new things. And especially during COVID, the example I always give is March 12th, 2020, none of us knew what Zoom was. Or if we had, we maybe used it once. But for all of us to start from square one, to have to learn Zoom and get on a device and, be in our homes and balancing and juggling. So really just in recent years, when you had mentioned, ways our program has expanded, we want to develop and maintain that critical digital literacy piece, because not only do they need to know Spanish and English, they need to know digital literacy.
And also these women, you don't want them to lose their culture. There's a balance between learning about another culture and integrating and maintaining the heart and soul of where they've come from.
We definitely try to have an environment that welcomes, that's multicultural, especially in the past year and a half, when there's more diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings. So we definitely want to have an environment with our events, with our teachings, where the materials we use, the curriculum we use, the flyers and outreach reflects multiple languages and cultures and populations. On our website, and this was something that some MBA volunteers helped us to do, we have buttons to translate into multiple languages. It's not perfect, but I mean, it's definitely, but they can, definitely get by and make sense of it, and whenever possible, we try to produce materials in Spanish, which we always have a native speaker such as Zoila. We run it through the translator, and we just want to make sure that we capture the cultural meaning, the linguistic meaning, that the vocabulary is accurate, because that isn't always the case. We have a native Haitian Creole speaker. We have for the half dozen students or so that originate from Haiti. and she's able to review those materials. And whenever possible, we make use of volunteers who speak the target languages fluently to make sure that we have flyers and outreach in other languages whenever possible. And we do try within our curriculum to have an environment of inclusion and diversity. When our school year started, we had a staff meeting to go over some of those principles. 3 members of our leadership last year, myself, Zoila, and another educational director, took a diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So we want to make sure we bring some of those best practices to the table to implement in our programming.
Zoila, do you have anything to add to that?
Also in the classroom, the teacher try to combine all of them. Sometimes they have like a celebration of the different culture. So they can see the different, they can communicate with themselves and things like that, which is like a family after me.
So that was a very good example. We have this was pre-COVID, the students were, our 2 Afghan students were in the classroom, and it was one of their national holidays, and the teacher created a space where the student could share the holidays and other students could ask questions and extend their best wishes. We had a college volunteer, this was in the past year, who identified as non-binary, and the students asked curious and respectful questions, and the teacher facilitated that discussion. And it was a safe space because the student who was non-binary was able to explain that they used they, them pronouns. And another student, a student from Mujeres, was saying, well, that's new to me. What makes you think that? Or tell me more about that. But it was just a respectful place both to pose and answer questions.
Was the immigrant community you serve at Mujeres Unidas Avanzando impacted by the policies and attitudes of the Trump administration? And has it changed under the Biden administration?
We will notice, and this is where Zoila will add some details, but without making this too political, it's pretty well known that Massachusetts is a blue state. So we might be telling a very different story were we located in another state. That being said, we got some generous donations of gift cards right when the pandemic emerged. And there were more than one student, enough that Zoila had to go into the classrooms and Zoom and explain the policies. There were students that were reluctant to accept any gift card help, which was a non-government donation, because they were afraid that they would be seen as a public charge and not welcome to be here and to stay here. And definitely when some of the events of January 6th with the Capitol, students were very fearful. They were also saying that they had seen things like that in their countries, but not so much living here. And it's also driven our programming to reach out. We partner with the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center to deliver workshops, and students drive the topics, and topics have included asylum and immigration and domestic violence and safety and paths to citizenship. So definitely students want to be here. They want to participate in society, but they also very much watch the news. And I want Zoila to add some details because she's a little closer to the students than I am, and to hear what she's heard.
Well, some of the students, I remember they used to say that they was afraid to go up to come to class because it was the situation that they have policemen in the train station, which they was afraid of that. So I think now it's more, it's better now because they know that they have the right too. I mean, they know that if a police come to them and say something to them, you know, they know they have to ask, or they have to ask for the name of the police, or they have to ask why that policeman need to say those things to them. So we really try our best to inform them about the situation, the immigration and things like that, which, I mean, now they are more open and they have more confidence themselves when they have to do something or have a situation outside of the house.
Mujeres Unidas Avanzando began by helping low-income Latina women winterize their homes, and you expanded from there into providing English classes and other services. Would you like to go into more depth about the classes and services that you provide, and also talk a little bit about volunteer opportunities?
Yes, absolutely. So Zoila predates me by about 7 years. So she's seen the most change, but we've definitely seen the program grow and expand over the years. You're correct that the program just started with volunteer-led English classes. And in the late 1980s, early 1990s, we added high school equivalency classes. And along that, we started to get funding from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which was known as DOE, Department of Education at that time. They required a handicapped accessible space. So that was a blessing because it forced MOA to move to a space that was larger and that could accommodate more classes and services. So in the past couple of decades, the program has gone from just offering English language classes and high school equivalency training classes and on-site preschool childcare just while mothers attend classes, to adding computer classes, social service referrals for SNAP, WIC, fuel, heating, domestic violence support. Anything that we don't provide in-house, we tap our network of service referrals and providers to help the women and men to access. We've also added computer classes, both basic and intermediate, as well as an office administration training. And our program has grown to add home health aid training, clinical medical assistance, CMA, and phlebotomy classes. We've also expanded to have day classes as well as evening classes. And the evening program is fully virtual just because we realized, even as we emerged from COVID, that keeping the program virtual was a positive because at the nighttime, the neighborhood is darker, it's colder in the winter. The T runs less frequently at night. Students have to travel from work and they don't often have care for their little ones at night. So, really we want to accommodate and meet the students where they are. Do you need night program? Do you need virtual program? Can you come during the day? We just pride ourselves on being a one-stop shopping resource where participants can learn English, obtain their high school equivalency, develop a base of marketable job skills, and address any barriers. And we also strive to give them, as we already mentioned, leadership skills and access to community resources so that they can participate more in society and to be active partners in their children's schooling.
We also have the component of the coaching with the help with getting a job or getting a resume for them to obtain. So we really improve a lot. Also, we give them a lot. They appreciate because that's the best thing when they come to you and they say, oh, thank you. I have achieved my goal. That's fantastic because we helping them, but they helping themselves.
If anyone is interested in becoming a participant or volunteering or making a donation, our website is www.muaboston.org. And students can apply online for classes. We have an online application form. And there's also different contact emails to get in touch with the program, whether it's to volunteer or if someone has a general question. And lastly, there is a button online to make donations.
Wonderful. And in addition to making donations and volunteering, do you have any final thoughts for us?
And one of the things that I always in my mind is that to know a person, sometimes you have to be in the same shoes. But there's Latina women, they are so lovable that if you know them, women and men too, if you know them and if you see the way that they need their need, you will love them. I mean, you have to know them to really get involved. If you want to get involved, you will, because they are very open when they have a confidence in a person. That's for sure.
And I think that many of our students, both women and men, are working 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet, to pay their rent, to try to juggle after school care and buying things for their children. And a lot of them are definitely working. We've had students that they're working at Panera, McDonald's, and they're cleaning houses at the same time. So really that our learners do want to work hard, participate in society. Many of them struggle with learning English as an adult. It's much harder to learn a new language as an adult versus a child, and that they want to do their best and participate in society and to be part of the community. And
when you come to the United States, there are so many things that you have to have it in your mind, that you have to learn the language. You have to try to do your best. If you want to get a job, you have to learn English, because in the United States, that's the first thing that you have to do. Just have confidence in yourself, come one of the programs that you can learn, and also find a good job that you will be satisfied and for yourself and for your family.
Johannah Malone and Zoila Diaz, thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today.
Thank you.
thank you.
If supporting education of immigrant families, underserved communities, women who have experienced homelessness or domestic violence is something you are passionate about and you would like to get involved, you're welcome to donate online or volunteer time. Contact us at muaboston.org. That's muaboston.org. Gracias.
You've been listening to Healing Wisdom at Outermost Radio. All of our shows are podcasts at WOMR.org. Also check out healingwisdomradioshow.com and contact me at pandora@WOMR.org.
Yeah. Cool.